Forshaw, and I've got a problem. Today, my guest is Tom Rhodes. He's a comedian that has appeared on HBO, Comedy Central, and he's performed literally around the entire world. You can find Tom at his website. That's Tom Rhodes, RHODS.net. And then Instagram, _Tom Rhodes, and then YouTube, Facebook, at King of Haha, TikTok, at Tom Rhodes Comedy. Just go to his website, Tom Rhodes.
Instagram is at _Tom Rhodes.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, I said that. Yeah. I was going to say, just go to your website, tomrhodes.net. All the links are in there and find out where he's going to be performing, all that good stuff. Tom, thanks for being here. What's your problem?
My problem? I'm overly sensitive. I have an artistic soul. I have a wanderlust. I have an insatiable love of humanity. How about that?
Yeah, those are all good ones.
Are you talking about substances?
Hey, there's no wrong answers on this show, I'm telling you.
So, well, when I started out, my father was a life of the party kind of guy. He always had a cocktail in his hand. He was always drinking. And my dad was really funny, and he loved stand-up comedy, which is how I fell in love with stand-up comedy. My dad loved Richard Pryor. And, Richard Pryor had addiction issues as well. So I wanted to be a stand-up comedian since I was 11. And studying comedians, I it always seemed like they were like partiers. And then like music and rock stars and writers and like all the people I was attracted to were dangerous. All of my heroes when I was younger died fat, naked, and bloated on the bathroom tiles. So I thought there was something to that. My first concert I ever saw was 1981. I saw the Rolling Stones. And I remember leaving that concert thinking to myself, man, I want to do drugs and be cool like those guys. But I saw the Rolling Stones just a few years ago, and I left that concert thinking, wow, I want to be healthy and live a long time like those guys. So, your perspective changes as you live your life and grow older, hopefully, if you're smart. Every warrior eventually needs to move on to wise men.
I just was about to start talking to you before we started recording, and then it's like, that's dumb. Should record this. We did a show the other night. Did my show, The Shawsome Show, at the Melrose Improv, Hollywood Improv, however you want to say it. And you mentioned it on stage. You mentioned, I don't know how many years again? You said it's been
12 years ago, January 2nd.
Yeah. That it was drinking, drugs. I don't even know what it was, but it never.
Well, I used to do everything. I was balls out partier my whole life, and my motto was always "have more now." And it's funny. I lived in New York City, 1998 to 2000, and I was partying so hard when I lived there at that time. I moved to Amsterdam in the year 2000, and I actually moved to Amsterdam to bring it down a notch. That's how much I was partying. But, it cost me a lot in life. Like I had moved to Amsterdam because I had fell in love with this beautiful actress woman. And she was from a small town in the north of Holland, and she wanted to settle down and have a family. And I was like doing shows all over Europe. And I remember London was really wild. When I would go to London, the comedians there were all like balls out partiers and drinkers. And the woman thought I was too much of a wild man, and I was. And she broke up with me. And there's been a lot in my life that it cost me. So, what happened was my father was killed by a drunk driver in 2009. And then I had not properly healed from that when my little sister, who I adored, died of breast cancer a year and a half later in 2011. So 2012 and 2013, I had stopped drinking for pleasure. I was so heartbroken. I was just like numbing the pain and overly drinking. And I really started to look like shit. And I think drinking is like being an athlete, like you're good at it when you're young, but as you get older, you're not as good at it anymore, and I started to look like shit. I started to get like that fat, bloated, white guy alcoholic face. and I was in Philadelphia at Helium for New Year's Eve, 2013, going into 2014. The New Year's Eve was on a Wednesday night, and so I had January 1st off, which was a Thursday, and then the contract had me staying for the weekend. So rarely am I off for an evening in a city. So I went out and I was by myself, and I had 10 pints of Sierra Nevada, which was just like a normal evening for me. And I was so drunk, I blacked out and I fell off of this bar stool like a tree and busted my head open on a tile floor. And there was blood everywhere. And some guy lifts me up and he yells out to the bar, "We got to call an ambulance." And I was like, "Fuck that. I don't have health insurance. Don't you dare call an ambulance." And he goes, "You got to get to a hospital." I'm like, "How far is the nearest hospital?" He goes, 2 blocks. I was like, 2 blocks and you're going to call an ambulance? It's like $15,000. So I got a wad of napkins off the bar and I walked to the hospital. And after I walked that first block, I said to myself, 7,000, whatever, 7,500 that I saved. But the next day I saw, it was really a transformative moment in my life. The next day I had seen so much ugliness in the mirror. I had a black eye and I had these Frankenstein stitches. You can still see where I got the, it's a nice, it blends in nicely with my wrinkles.
Yeah.
But I had, I saw so much ugliness in the mirror the next day that I decided I want to go 1 year without drinking and see how much work I get done. And I got so much work done in that year. After it was finished, I said to myself, I want to go 10 years without drinking. And then after I went 10 years, I thought, you know, I don't ever need to drink ever again, you know?
Mm. Yeah. Man, I don't remember what year I met you, but it was before you were drinking for sure. But it's interesting that sometimes, I guess, because you said like your life of the party, kind of like, you know, party guy, like
I thought being a comedian, that's what you had to be, the life of the party.
But I never saw you as that. There are comedians that are sober now or clean that I remember meeting them and just being like, I grew up in Miami. I was like around drugs and drinking and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But I remember meeting him just being like, oh, that guy has a problem. I never thought of you as having that, but then hearing your story is interesting because I mean, I'm gambling. I don't think any gambling you can hide. So nobody even really knew until they knew, you know, with me. But that's why when you said it the other night, it occurred to me, I go, oh yeah, I guess you don't drink. And maybe that was an issue. And certainly probably had a beer with you back whenever, but I was never a big drinker, which a couple things, by the way, it's funny that you were that wasted that you fell off a stool, but that's how fucked up the healthcare system is that you still were just like,
Yeah.
you were coherent enough to be like, I can't go in an ambulance.
Well, in retrospect, I think Jesus pushed me.
Yeah.
Because that moment changed my life, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm great. I wish I would have quit drinking 10 years before I did. And
Yeah.
it is really powerful not to drink because you see how stupid people act when they are drunk, you know?
Yeah.
And I've done comedy festivals around the world, and you see like young comedians are wasted and saying like the stupidest shit to important people. And then I thought to myself, oh my God, how many times was I that guy? And I didn't realize it. I thought, oh my God, I'm so cool. You know, I was like holding my own, talking to some big shots, but no, you looked like a moron and you said stupid things.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, you could have fallen off a stool 10 years before that. You just weren't ready for it. That's the main thing. I mean, you know, there's so many times I look back and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have all the money I've lost, houses, things like that, where I'm like, wow, I wish I would have stopped gambling then, you know? And, but I didn't, you know, and I guess that wasn't the time for me. But also IPAs, 10 IPAs. I couldn't even drink one IPA. That's a rough drunk.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And, you know, I just have been going through some old pictures of us, of me, like on my hard drive, a whole bunch of pictures. And I found, we did some shows together in DC. I don't know how many years ago that was. I want to say 15 or 16 years ago.
We went to the White House. You knew somebody that he was a doctor at the White House or something?
A good friend of mine.
This incredible tour of the White House. It was incredible.
Yeah. A good friend of mine, Maurice Perkins, who I went to college with, he's been in politics like his whole existence, you know, and he knew that guy. And then he brought us through the White House tour, which, you know, you can go on the tour. I mean, anyone can kind of, well, it's pretty hard. You got to make an appointment, but we had a guy, I believe he was Laura Bush and maybe Michelle Obama's doctor. It was first ladies that he was a doctor of. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was really cool. Then we did a tour of the Library of Congress too, because we met the dude. He was like a fan
Well,
of
he was a
yours.
fan of mine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still friends with him. Fred Simonton, something like that. Really great guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And
He would
that
come
was
see
cool.
me, and so you hooked us up on the White House tour, and then I hooked us up on that Library of Congress tour.
Yeah.
That was a great week.
If you ever go to DC, anyway, go to Library of Congress. It's like, I think, an overlooked building that people just are like, whatever. And you go inside, it looks like Game of Thrones level.
Yeah, and
Like,
the Library of Congress, they're really committed to being the main library museum source of the internet. So like anything you could like just find lots of inspiration just poking around the Library of Congress website. They're pretty amazing.
yeah. You said, I think I've told you this. Maybe you don't remember. It's like you said something we were in Library
But
of
the
Congress.
Red Bull?
Yeah, that still makes me laugh. Because the guy's giving us the tour, and he's like, and here is where, whatever it was, like Theodore Roosevelt said these words, and they have like his quote up there or whatever, and then here is where, Harry S. And then you're like, and this is where Obama had a Red Bull with Jay-Z. Or I think we were talking about how, like, politics today, it doesn't seem as, it seems so much more romanticized for back then, I guess. We were just like the quotes and the things that happen. And now it's just like, I mean, especially now, it's just fucking shit show, But yeah. Yeah, what was the name of that club? It's no longer around. Couldn't remember.
The Riot Act?
Nah, it was only there, something Loft, maybe the Comedy Loft.
Oh, okay. I did that once a few years ago. I think
yeah.
you and I were at you and I were at the Improv, I think.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, there's my brain. So
yeah, or the Riot Act. That was a great club while it lasted.
Yeah. So you were talking about, I thought that was interesting, like seeing younger comics or comics in general that are like, ways to talking to somebody important or something like that. And you were thinking about how many times did you do that? But just in life, like I look back at things that I did in, like with my addiction and people that I hurt and this and that, and whatever. And is that something that you like dwell on, you look at, do you reach out to people? Like, how do you approach that kind of stuff? Like things that you remember, like that you regret?
Well, my father was killed by a drunk driver. So thank God I never had anything that severe. I mean, I couldn't imagine somebody living with that on their consciousness, especially someone who is as sensitive as I am. And I feel things very deeply. I think most artistic people do. But hurting people's feelings, being, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of things that I've remembered through the years of, hurting people's feelings or just being a jerk, and I cringe and I feel terrible about it, but
I feel that like I do that daily. I feel like, and it doesn't have to be about my addiction, but it's But I wonder if that is, I mean, I can blame it on artistic. I like that. Let's blame it on that, my creative side. But we're not blaming on it, but that's where it comes from. Because I did something weeks ago. It wasn't even a big thing. It was just a text where I said something I probably overshared or something. And I was just typing something up the other day. And I was like, I made like an audible sound by myself. It was just me and my dog, just like, and I don't know. I thought maybe that was an addict thing, kind of thing. But yeah, I like the creative, because I guess there's some people that just go through life and they don't give a shit. They don't even.
There's a lot of people that don't give a shit. I think especially now, people are, I don't know, pretty rude and full of self-importance. Yeah.
When you say now, what you think?
Well, I don't know. I think
internet,
the social media and people, everyone thinking their lives are so important, and just people. There's people being cruel, and I think there's rampant assholishness. There's a modern epidemic of modern assholishness and just people with lack of manners, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think about that a lot. I wonder, just being of the age, and you as well, where you remember things before times, before everybody had their profile and things, they're online and they,
Thank God there was no social media when I was in high school or cell phones,
yeah.
you know?
I'm wondering, I just, my hope is like that 10 or 15, 20 years, this becomes kind of like this full circle thing. I don't even know what to believe when you read stuff anymore, when it's like a meme. And what the thing I read this morning was only 35% of activity on the internet is actual humans and 65% is bots and AI and whatever. And that does make sense if you think about it. But that also made me think like, oh, well, maybe it'll be 100%. And then we just won't be on the internet anymore. And then it'll just be bots and AI and on the internet. And then
Yeah,
we'll have,
there's this monk that I follow on on Instagram, and I thought, man, that's got to be AI. And I Googled it, and it's totally AI. But the guy gives like great advice. He's like sitting in a temple, and he's just like, so it's interesting.
just
And
saying a month on Instagram is already funny though.
yeah, but I know it's fake, but the guy gives some really great advice.
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't mind positive stuff. I just feel, and I mean, I don't even mind like negative stuff shaped in the educational way, where you're just like, hey, I follow a lot of marine biology, marine science stuff, just because that's historically what I've been about. And then I'm also, doing the show now called The Ocean Hates You. And so my algorithm has been flooded with stuff I like. And I was like, oh, it's this easy. Just start putting whales and dolphins and sea turtles. But you'll still get like, bycatch, like animals dead in nets and things like that stuff. But I don't mind that stuff because it's educational. I can learn about it. I can, it's not just like, fuck this guy. Oh, there's a guy beating up some guy at a gas station or whatever mindless shit. But yeah, I thought the other day, I was like, man, that movie, The Purge. So not The Purge, but sort of The Purge. So it's like there's 2 separate months a year, so 2 out of 12, where everything on the internet shuts down except for what do they call that? Not necessary, or things that have to, what is that? Essential, like so for instance, you'll still have email, so you can communicate with email, do stuff on work. Hospitals would have access to, you know, whatever, but you wouldn't have any social media, you wouldn't have YouTube, you wouldn't have anything other than things that were required, like, I guess you would need internet to run traffic lights or whatever, the kind of stuff. And then we wouldn't have that for 1 month out of the year. I don't think there's any way that would happen, but I just thought like, man, that would be wonderful. Is there like a moment? I guess you already said it, like falling off the stool, but I don't know if there was like a moment that you look back and you think like that. I guess maybe this is right, that like it should have scared you more, like something that happened because you were drinking, doing drugs, whatever, and that you look back and like, oh, that should have been the moment. That should have been my falling off the stool moment, kind of thing. Or
I mean, there was there was a lot of dangerous situations I put myself in, especially there was like a late '90s, early 2000s. It was and it wasn't long. There was a few year period when I was doing a little cocaine, and when you're chasing that stuff, you find yourself with some very unsavory individuals, and there was a few times I thought, this is a very dangerous situation that I think God plucked me right out of. But yeah, no, I think lucky that I don't have like, I mean, that I only busted my head open.
yeah,
That, you know.
yeah, cocaine is like there's never any good, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, in Florida, when I started out in 1984, 85, I was in high school and doing open mic nights. There was so much cocaine in Florida. People would come up and shake your hand after the show, and there'd be a folded up dollar bill in their hand, and it would have a gram of cocaine in it.
Yeah.
Like if they liked your set. That's how
Yeah.
much cocaine there was in Florida.
Sure.
And everyone thought they were Tony Montana. And I was afraid. I played baseball in high school, so I was like an athlete, and I was afraid of it. So I would give my cocaine to the older comedians, and they all loved me, because it wasn't until years later that I tried it and got into it.
Yeah. What did you play in baseball? What position did you play?
Center field, baby. I had some good
You're
legs. I could run.
fast. Huh. Nice. Yeah. I grew up in Florida too. You know this. We've talked about it. But yeah, drugs was just like a part of growing up in Florida. I feel like it was just like, I always look at it. It's still kind of like the party state. I feel like it's where it's like the hotel of the country. People come there and just like do whatever the hell they want, clip their toenails, and just wipe
Yeah.
their butt with a towel and then leave.
Yeah.
But I remember when I started comedy that, it was later than when you started, but I remember getting like, people always try to hand you drugs after the show and stuff. It was crazy. But I don't know. The cocaine thing is, it's kind of like what you're saying. There was never anybody, there always was a sense of danger or violence surrounding that, no matter what, or
Yeah.
just uneasiness, but yet people do it, what about like something like when you were drinking, doing drugs that like you were convinced was normal activity, like normal behavior, and then you look back and you're like, that clearly wasn't. Like, that's
I mean, I was a big Doors fan. I remember the Doors lyric. I woke up this morning, got myself a beer. So I mean, there was a couple times where I tried that. It's a horrible way to start the day, and day drinking is a horrible.
yes.
When you're young and bulletproof, you can do those things. But I'm glad that I gave up drinking,
Yeah.
and then what is it? Like 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, I stopped smoking weed and cigarettes. There was this woman that I was in love with, and she had asthma, and this is the power of love. That I don't think I would have done this on my own. So I quit smoking cigarettes for 5 years, and then I actually had quit smoking weed for a year, and then I started it again a year and a half ago, something like that. But I was in love with this woman, and she had asthma, and the cigarettes really bothered her, and so I found the power in myself, because my love was so strong, that I quit smoking weed and cigarettes for this woman. And then I was still smoking cigars, and then that bothered her, so I quit smoking those too. The relationship did not work out, but I'm forever grateful to this woman that I really impressed myself with the love inside me that I could do this, And like I said, I don't think I would have been able to do it on my own. I think I needed to. I don't know. Only for the love of another human being would I have been able to do something so monumental, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Well,
And
congratulations.
so, I've been California sober for a while and smoking the weed, and I'm grateful that just recently I'm like 100%, totally clean.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations. Yeah. First of all, day drinking is terrible. I don't even know.
Yeah.
People celebrate that. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, hey, we're going to see a football game. Let's get drunk in the parking lot. Yeah, that'll help things.
You have a hangover by 5.
Yeah, that'll help. That'll help the team.
Yeah, it's I work a lot in Vegas still, and there are people. You see the people there. I mean, I guess whatever. You're on vacation. You want to do whatever you're doing, but
a lot of people go to Vegas to be the worst version of themselves.
Yeah. It's interesting though. I have friends that are gambling addicts, and they work in casinos in Vegas. They're card dealers. 2 of them are card dealers. One of them works as like they don't really call them pit bosses anymore, but they're like floor managers and stuff like that, But I guess alcoholics do that. I guess there's bartenders that but it just seems because people ask me all the time too when I go to Vegas. They're like, "Oh, is that tough for you to go there?" I'm just like, I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, no, I actually get a lot of work done in Vegas because I don't drink and I don't gamble. So when I like, it's almost like Groundhog's Day. You know, you got so many days in Vegas that, like the last time I was there was a great gym in the building. As I started lifting weight in the hotel, so I started lifting weights, and then there's been other times where I've gone there and done hot yoga classes all week, and
Yeah,
there's great restaurants all over Vegas, so you could go there and okay, I'm only going to do sushi this week, and then every great chocolatier
yeah,
in the world has a store in Vegas, so you could go to Vegas and just have a week of exquisite chocolates every day. I mean, it's
yeah,
like Groundhog's Day. You can do whatever you want with that day, and then eventually you're going to get it right. You're going to learn French. You're going to learn the piano. You're going to
yeah.
catch the kid who falls out of the tree.
Groundhog's Day is a good. I like that. Yeah, yeah. When I and because you work the cellar too. That walk though. That's what I was gonna say. When you go from the elevator to the club and you walk through, just that little walk there is where for me is because when people say, "Oh, is it tough for you to work in Vegas?" I use that. That's like therapy for me. That walk. When I walk, I don't look and I see like blackjack tables and slot machines, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'd love to be playing those." I look at all the people and I can identify the people the same. And just you walk by that bar too, you can identify the people that are like sad. You
Yeah,
know, the
I see
people
that when
that
I
are
walk by
like,
the bar and I see people drinking, and I'm like grateful that I'm not them. I remember the last time I was in Vegas too. I had just quit smoking cigarettes, and I saw this woman twice, and she was only like 45, and she had the oxygen tank and the tubes in her nose, and I was like,
yeah,
"Thank you, Jesus, for getting me off the cigs."
yeah, yeah. They have their dog with them. I always feel bad for the dog when they're gambling with like a little dog or something. I'm like, come on. No, it's like just leave the dog at home. Things like sucking in smoke, this little chihuahua. And they're just, yeah. It's because I'll go down that, I'll go down and get like, I'll get up early. And I have my dog with me a lot of times. I don't sit with him in the casino, but he goes with me. And so we walk outside and we do a whole loop around the entire property, stretch his little legs. And I'll be going on that elevator and it's like, people are going down to gamble at like 5 in the morning, and I don't miss that at all. And again, I don't. There's plenty of people there that are gambling and drinking normally, so hats off to them. But like you said, I can look at people immediately and tell you, like the same way you're walking by the bar and like, oh yeah, that person's in it.
There's a lot of sad, miserable people.
What did you like? For me, and everyone's different. Did you like lie to yourself a lot, like during addiction? Like, because I know that's a big thing for me. Is I just would
Well, I
convince.
remember like I used to play the Sacramento Punchline like once a year, and and I was always partying and always drinking, and I did this joke because a lot of comedy clubs are in mini malls around America.
Yeah,
So I was partying hard, and I used to do this joke where I was just jokingly I would say that I'm the king of the mini mall, and I would just keep saying that in my act. And these people sent me this email, these fans of mine, and they said we're big fans, and we come and see you every year, and we just think we wanted to say, maybe if you weren't partying so hard all the time, um, you might be more than the king of the mini mall. And at the time, I wrote them back, and I was like, um, I'm just having fun, and I'm just trying to make the greatest experience every night, and it's just a joke. But that really resonated with me, and that these fans took the time to reach out to me and say, hey man, you could be achieving more in life if you were not partying every night. And then that was the thought I had when I busted my head open, that, I could be achieving more in life. And then just recently, when I stopped smoking marijuana, one of the thoughts was, when you're young and you're having fun and everything, but, you do certain things, especially like smoking weed your whole life, that, your life can pass you by and you can miss a lot of um, important moments that you could have acted differently.
yeah. Do you think you'd be a comedian if you had never drank or done drugs?
I don't know, man. I don't know if I would have, because it was, um, it was fun for a long time being that, and I had that Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, romanticism about it, and I was good friends with Mitch Hedberg, and I think he definitely had that too. That like the belief in the God note. That the only way to hit that Keith Richards God note on the guitar was to through excess and
Yeah.
chemical exploration. But it's a stupid mentality, and it's really like when you're young and you fall in love with music and entertainers, and you're reading about all these heroes. It's much better to be a clear-eyed, crystal
Yeah.
clear brain person now. But unfortunately, you don't. You never know moderation until you know fucked up.
Yeah. Well, I think that people that are comedians, that are working comedians, successful comedians, are you're funny either way. I don't think that any of those substances made you funny. Because we like to think like, oh, well, I thought about it this way because I was high or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but that still was in your brain. Well, your brain still works in that way. I've gotten high with plenty of people that aren't funny at all. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they don't even have a funny thing. I mean, they're friends of mine. I love them, but they don't ever say anything that you're like, oh, that was genius, So I think that's like that. I remember famously that I don't know. I haven't talked about it on this podcast. Probably one I used to do with Jim Jeffries is that me and him ate mushrooms one night, and we would laugh our asses off on mushrooms all the time, and we would say the funniest shit. So our reasoning was, we'll eat mushrooms. We'll put this pad of paper here and this like marker, and we'll write down the ideas that come to us as we're doing mushrooms. And we had a great night, and we laughed a lot. And then the next day we read what was on the paper, and it made absolutely no fucking sense.
Yeah.
It was only funny because we're on mushrooms. And this is, two people that already are good at comedy.
Yeah.
You're in
Well, I
Jim
think that was one of the
Hansen.
lies I told myself with weed, that it helps me look at things differently and it gives me joke ideas. And it might have when I was younger, but then as I got older, it didn't. It didn't give me ideas. It just like, okay, you're zonked out and now the day is ruined.
Yeah.
So, but that was, I think, the lie that I told myself for a long time, that it helps me come up with joke ideas. But I knew for a fact long before I gave it up that it wasn't.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And do you think there was like, I know that you mentioned some of the tragedy that you had in your life recently, but just starting out, like, and that's maybe where it ramped up. But do you think like you were always trying to solve some problem or run away from something like with?
Well, you know who Alan Watts is?
No.
I don't know if he was his English philosopher or what his exact title was, but he'll pop up on my TikTok, these lectures. I think he's been dead for a long time, but there was a lecture I heard where he was saying that he thought alcoholics and drug addicts were in search of the divine connection with God, that they were actually like spiritual seekers. So I don't know. I mean, I thought, wow, that's quite a perspective. I mean, you think drunks in some local dive bar watering hole, they're trying to get closer to God. Maybe they're just, trying to forget that their sports team sucks.
Yeah. I just looked him up right now. He looks like a philosopher. Just the 5 pictures I have of him, he kind of looks like who's the guy that plays Doctor Strange in Marvel?
Yeah, yeah.
In these pictures, he does. Looks like a little.
But I don't, I wasn't that familiar with the guy's work. I'd heard his name before, but there's lots of his lectures that'll pop up on TikTok, and I'm like, holy shit! Wow, the guy's was pretty profound.
Yeah, that's one thing advantage you have, if you have an advantage of being an alcoholic or drugs or not, is like they're always. Well, I guess that's not an advantage. Sometimes they're giving the substance credit for, what I'm saying, like for an author or a musical artist or
Yeah.
like it's because of this and that. I guess maybe that is an advantage. No one's ever said that for gambling. No one's ever been like, well, it's like things really took
Trying to
off.
write a book, man.
He started playing roulette, and his creativity really soared. It was all the baccarat. You gamble at all? You ever gambled?
Never had the gambling bug. No, I would always, and it's ultimately why I never got really deep into drugs. That I would rather spend my money on travel and clothing.
Yeah.
You know,
How many countries have you been to? Do you know the number?
60, 62, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What is it, like 200 or something like that? So you're, yeah.
I don't know. I've been to a lot.
I think most people have been to 2, maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
You know, it's like at least Americans. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
and I think I performed in like 55 of them or something. You know.
Yeah, when I started out doing comedy, there's a couple other comics I know now that kind of travel. Matt Davis, do you know him?
Oh yeah, I love Matt. Yeah. And Ari Shaffir is he's not living anywhere, traveling the world.
Yeah, Ari for sure.
Ari always loved when people here at the Moon Tower Comedy Festival in Austin years ago, when I wasn't living anywhere. Somebody asked me, and Ari was standing there, and he always quotes this. Somebody asked me, "Hey Tom, where you living now?" And I said, "In these shoes."
Yeah, nice. Yeah. I've kind of been like that the last year, but not around the world. But I have just kind of been living, me and my dog, like just places for 2-3 months at a time. It's been interesting. But and I've through some friends of mine, like aforementioned Jim Jeffries and some other people, I've been able to travel around the world and do comedy, and then therefore do it on my own too, which has been amazing. And I've gambled in a lot of those countries too.
Really?
Oh my God. I've told a story on this podcast.
Like in Australia, you got to find a casino, and
you don't have to find a casino in Australia. I mean, they have them in the back of the bars. They have the VIP lounges, quote unquote.
That's right.
Starting to get rid of those mainly. But I mean, I think per capita, Australia is the #1 gambling country in the world per capita, like money, like however much money per year people spend. But all throughout Southeast Asia, well, not like famously in Singapore, I told a story on this podcast about pawning a necklace at a pawn shop in Singapore, and not even being able to communicate with the person probably, but pawning the necklace, winning, going to the casino, gambling, winning enough money to get it back, but having to wait through Chinese New Year for the pawn shop to open. And somehow just stupid shit, So,
wow. That's cool. Yeah. You want it back.
It's amazing I want it back, but I shouldn't have. There's no
I think there was a story, like the guy who founded FedEx when it started.
Yeah.
The company was going to go bust, and he couldn't pay his employees.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true or not. I remember hearing this years ago. And he went to Vegas and gambled what he had, and he won enough to pay everybody. And then the company could go forward. I mean, that might just be like urban mythology.
I've heard this story. I think there's some truth to it, and he was able to, but I always
see those are the kind of stories like, you see someone who's like 95 and they're still smoking cigarettes and they don't have cancer. It's like those like
outliers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I for every one of those stories that may or may not be true, there's hundreds of thousands of the other way. It's like the guy's company was going under. He went to Vegas and he lost everything, and then he killed himself. So yeah, okay, cool. Just like, the whole company went under,
and that's why you never heard of that company.
Yeah, and the town went under. Yeah. I asked you a question, but you already, I feel like, answered this, but you can answer. What's a small thing someone did that helped you more than they know? I feel like it was that
last girlfriend that I had did. Because of her asthma problem, I was able to stop smoking marijuana and cigarettes and cigars. I had been, California sober, and then I don't know. Since I quit smoking cigarettes for 5 years, and then I started again during the pandemic, and it was the love that I had for this woman that made me find the strength to just stop. Like the way I busted my head open in Philadelphia. Had that not happened, I would have just kept on drinking. But I blacked out in Philadelphia, busted my head open. I saw so much ugliness in the mirror that I decided I'm better than drinking alcohol. I could be achieving so much more in my life. And this woman was so important to me. My love was so strong for her that I just stopped. And it's incredible the power of love and what I was able to do. And I thought to myself, I could be achieving so much more in life. Forget the health benefits of just being able to live longer, but just not relying on that little dopamine rush of having a cigarette, smoking a little pot, thinking it makes me creative. I knew it wasn't, and I found the power through my love for this woman to just fucking boom, without meetings or help or whatever, just the willpower and the strength to put the shit down once and for all, finally.
Yeah, I was actually given the example of the king of the mini malls. Those people writing to you, but that also, both of those things are small, like things that they probably don't even realize how much. I ask that question always because I always like to hear what an example of it is, but I always like people to hear that it's the smallest things can be the most important things, or the biggest,
Yeah.
So, what song best describes your addiction?
Like when I lived in New York City and I was partying so hard, the line that I always think perfectly describes that period I was living is the Rolling Stones song "Shattered," and in that song he says, "My brains have been splattered all over Manhattan." So I think that described my addiction perfectly. My brains have been splattered all over Manhattan.
That's a good song. I like that song. I mean, it's Rolling Stones. They have a lot of good songs, but yeah. And they also have a song that I always think about with, I do solo versions of this podcast, and I did one a couple episodes ago where I was just talking about wants and needs. And I didn't even mention that song, but that sometimes you feel, how's it go? Instead of getting what you want, you get what you need. What song is
Yeah.
that?
You can't always get what you want.
Yeah, of course.
But if you try sometimes,
Yeah.
you just might find you get what you need.
I'm like, what song is that? It's like, you literally just said the title.
Yeah.
You can't always get what you want. What's the dumbest excuse you've ever told yourself to justify your addiction?
Well, I told you that I thought it helped me write jokes to smoke weed.
Yeah. And then, what do you think is the worst addiction?
Cocaine. Well,
Yeah.
no, heroin, I think, is the worst. You know, it's taken a lot of great artists' lives, and but I never did heroin. I don't know what that's like. Thank God. I was always afraid of needles, but cocaine was always I thought was the one drug that did not inspire any creativity whatsoever. It's only paranoia and you're inside your own thoughts, and yeah, there's not many redeeming qualities to it.
Yeah, agreed. I've never done heroin. I've never injected anything either. But of all the other drugs, which is a laundry list of ones that I've done, cocaine was never like, oh yeah, I'll tell you why it's good. The one that everyone always comes up with is like, well, if you're drunk, you can drive home. Cool. What a ringing endorsement.
Right.
And it's funny when I ask that question, what's the worst addiction? I go back and forth. I change mine all the time. I was like food for a while. I was like food because I've struggled with the food, like with my relationships with food for a long time. And that's something you have to do. So it makes it very difficult. And then I know the mindset I'll get into because I've lost all this weight. And then there'll be days where I'm like, I'll start to try and get back in that. I'll get back into that mental cycle where I'm like, well, I'll do that. If I already ate that, I can then eat this. And then let me put this fucking other shit in my face. But no wrong answers. What is one word you would use to describe your addiction? Just one word.
One word. Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I have a word to describe it.
Okay.
I mean, deceased. It's I mean, I'm lucky, I didn't have to, because there's people who go to AA meetings and they struggle with it. There's people who go to NA meetings who struggle with it. I'm pretty lucky that when I made the decision to stop drinking and doing hard drugs that I made the decision, boom, never went back. And then when I ultimately made the decision to stop smoking cigarettes and weed and cigars, that boom, I did it. It wasn't like a teeter-totter, and I can be around these things. I can be around just pot. Marijuana is everywhere now in the United States. And then drinking has always been a massive part of every culture, most of the countries, and where comedy's happening. And, I don't ever feel the magnetic pull to, hey, let me have a drink so
Yeah, it's a
clarity is a drug unto itself, my friend.
Yeah, I feel like, and there have been other comics I've had on this podcast that never went to AA or NA or whatever, whatever 12-step program. And I feel like with and I always tell people, I'm like, do what works for you, because there's no one has the same path or anything. But the important thing is, if you know that it's fucking your life up or doing damage to your life, then the important thing is you stop, no matter how you do it. And I think, like, with comics, and I guess that's who I've mainly had on here, other than a few doctors and some other people, and I think you've found this, is like, if you're able to, like, take a step back and look at yourself, and then make decisions and determinations based on, like, what you're seeing. I feel like some people have brains better developed for that, and I feel like you have that, is what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Just based on me knowing you and the way you are. And so I think that's good for people to know. Like, there's no right way to get better, mentally better,
Well, my father used to say this about cigarettes to me years ago, that we have willpower for a reason, that it's possible to do hard things and to have the willpower to give up bad habits. And I think that is what makes us unique among the animals, is that, most animals, or all animals, have characteristics. They can't change their behavior. A wolf is a wolf. A fucking owl is an owl. A human being has the ability to change their habits, their characteristics, and the kind of person that they are, and to grow into a better version of not relying on substances, not doing old patterns, not being an asshole and hurting people. And I think that's the basis of every religion and self-help group, is that we have this transformative power to not stay the same person and keep the same characteristics our whole life. And if you're not growing into a better version of yourself, what the fuck are you doing in this life?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it too.
That was a good clip.
Yeah. I feel like that's why animals are more pure than us, too. That's why, like, you never, like, sharks. Right now, there's sharks. I don't know if you've seen, like, in the Sydney Harbor, there's been some bull shark. There's been 4 attacks in, like, the last week or something like that. I shouldn't even call them attacks. They're not attacks. The sharks aren't attacking. There's been incidents where a shark has had an encounter with a human being. And then, sure enough, like, this whole thing rises up. And people are like, we got to start calling them and this and that, whatever. And it's like, they act like the sharks are out there evil, like, doing whatever. And it's like, they're just doing what they've always been doing.
Yeah.
They're not going to change. There's no shark that's, like, out there like, oh yeah, fuck this surfer, this guy, like, whatever,
Yeah.
But that's
maybe they got little self-help groups, biting a surfer, anonymous.
Yeah.
Well, my first bite of a surfer was
once I got a little taste.
I was just a teenager, man, and it felt the rush.
And
then I had to keep biting them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think that's what makes that's an interesting way to look. What I meant is, because we always try to, what separates us from the animals, but that is really what that kind of critical thinking, or that kind of thought process that we're able to have, versus, like, my dog, who's the best, is just, he's going to be how he's going to be. Oh, he's not going to, not doing things out of spite. So, what's, like, your proudest moment since you've been like sober so far?
I mean, I still do stupid things and I still say stupid things. Proudest moments. I mean, it is like a superhero quality to be able to drive home at any hour when you're not drinking or using
Yeah.
substances. So I just little things, little victories like that are
Yeah.
great. Um, and then I find it makes me a stronger performer as a comedian. I have more, um, encyclopedic memory of jokes and stories, sharper on stage, yeah.
I love that. It's like you walk to the parking lot, like, huh, how am I going to get home? Oh, wait a second. I
Yeah.
have the power. So, uh, and like, what's the worst advice someone gave you, like while you were struggling?
Worst advice. I don't know. Worst advice, just, seeing just examples of people,
Mm.
um, there's always just knowing what you don't want to be in life, I think is the most powerful guidepost. But I can't think of any like bad advice.
But then how about what advice do you have for someone if somebody's out there and they're like dealing with it?
What do you want to achieve in life? Do you want to be a drunk, wasted moron, or do you want to make a difference? Do you want to leave a mark in this lifetime? Even if you're a creative person like that, the drunken poet, the wasted comedian, the drugged out rock star. I mean, those are illusions and they might work for some people, but it's a rare 1%. And heroin's not going to make you Keith Richards or Mitch Hedberg. It's going to ruin your life. Drinking alcohol is like, God, think all the broken homes and hurt feelings and bad decisions that were just made from alcohol. It's bad decision making juice, is really what it is. And marijuana is, I always thought it was cool, man. I'm a jazz musician, and I'm like, but it's, your life will pass you by, and other people will achieve better things because they're not zonking their brains out on that shit. I think that um, being the best version of yourself, and I didn't realize this. I mean, I didn't bust my head open and stop drinking until I was 47. So, I really enjoyed myself and I had a lot of great times and a lot of wild evening nights with very beautiful lunatics. But the best life is on the other side of that, the other side of busting. And you don't need your rock bottom moment of busting your head open in Philadelphia. Hopefully you're smarter than that, you know? Hopefully you don't need to fall in love with a woman who has asthma to make you quit smoking cigarettes and weed and cigars. That a smart person learns from other people's examples, and you're going to have better relationships with your family. You're going to have better love stories. You're going to have more productive and creative output as an artist if you avoid these things. You want to be a great comedian? Don't do drugs. Don't drink alcohol. You want to be a great artist? Don't drink alcohol. Don't do drugs. You want to be a great lover, boyfriend, husband? Don't drink alcohol, don't do drugs. You want to be a great family person? Don't do all that shit. You know? So that's my advice.
Good advice. All right, Tom. Thanks for being here. I
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
it.
Forrest, I love you very much, and your story in your life is very inspiring because you have such a great light shooting out of your soul, and you share it very beautifully. And I'm honored to be your friend, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that. And go check out Tom Rhodes. Go to his website, tomrhodes.net. You can find all the links there for all the social media stuff that we just talked shit about. And go see him. Go see him live. He's hilarious. I was literally just talking to a friend of mine before we did this, and I said, I'm about to do my podcast, and I told him that you were going to be. I just said, have Tom Rhodes on it, and he's not even a comic, but he remembers. I think it was your half hour. They were talking about Comedy Central half hour. He said to say hello. You don't even know him.
What's his name?
Clyde.
Howdy, Clyde.
We did it.
Glad I gave you some laughs.
Thanks again to Tom Rhodes for being on the podcast. As always, before I just dip on out, if you're in the Chicago area, I will be at Comedyplex this weekend. It's in Oak Park, Illinois, just outside of Chicago, or I guess it's just a suburb. Comedyplex at Oak Park. That'd be February 6th and 7th. Actually, Thursday, too, I'm doing the Ocean Hates You in Phoenix, in Chandler, Arizona, in Phoenix at Mike Mania. I'm doing the Ocean Hates You. It's the debut of the show. It's going to be something. We'll see. And then February 13th, Friday, February 13th, if you're in the LA area, I'll be at Flappers in Burbank doing the Ocean Hates You show as well. And then I go to Australia, February 17th through March 1st. I'll be at the Adelaide Fringe Festival at the Howling Owl, 7:15 p.m. every night. Come out and see me, please. If you know somebody in Australia or you're in Australia, grab another person and come on out. It's going to be a fun show. There's giveaways and all sorts of cool shit. Then I'll be at the Comics Lounge March 4th and 7th in Melbourne, Australia. And then when I come back, I'll be in Las Vegas. I'll be in Dallas and Austin, Harvey's Casino in Tahoe, Portland, Seattle, possibly Austin. Again, I'll be in Almirada, Florida. I'll be in Florida again in end of April doing shows. Then Omaha, Kansas City, San Diego. Go to forrestshaw.net. Go and see all my dates on there. If you feel like donating to the podcast, there's a button on there that you can click on, and all of your donations go back to the show. I've got a problem. If, if you're feeling suicidal, or you're feeling down, or you're in some sort of crisis mode, dial 988 in USA and Canada. Dial 988 as well. 988 as well. Sorry. United Kingdom, it's 0800-689-5652. Australia, the lifeline is 13 11 14. Love it, Australia. And there's other ones. We know about Germany, but there's a Wikipedia page, list of suicide crisis lines, that has a list of all the crisis helplines by country. So just Google that and just reach out to somebody. That's it for this week. I'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good one. Love y'all.